Good morning, welcome back to United TV. Manchester United so close to Champions League football now. Also, Bruno Fernandes so close to the assist record, and probably a lot of sources now are saying that Michael Carrick is probably very close to actually being head coach next season. Has he done enough? What do people think regarding this story? But this is like Manchester United scoop talking about Michael Carrick. Jamie Carragher saying he thinks it's a done deal. There's been a few stories over the last few weeks thinking Champions League football probably gets the deal done, but Manchester United are almost like holding out for potentially a if they're looking for a world class manager or someone that's already won trophies at the highest level. I don't know if those options are going to materialise, and maybe Michael Carrick is going to be the best option available to them. But he can't really do any more than what he's doing. Like Manchester United, they won last night. Brentford are a very good team. It was a difficult match. He made some tactical changes at halftime, something which, if you've been critical of Manchester United against Leeds not making changes, he made changes more proactively last night. Manchester United were actually winning the game 2-0 when he made changes. And it looked like the idea was going to be like, let's make sure we don't throw things away. It was quite an open game. Brentford were dangerous. Manchester United were playing a lot of good football though. Could have scored more goals in that first half, but they made the changes, and in the end, Brentford got their goal from a long range shot. And I think it was, yeah, you could say job done almost, like one more point to guarantee Champions League football. But yeah, if results go away in the next week, it's going to be done. So I think a lot of positives to talk about. Also, a few stories I saw this morning talking about Manchester United's transfer strategy, maybe trying to avoid the mistakes they've made in the past, which I think is a good thing. So I'll go for some of those stories. There's a few things to discuss regarding the transfers that, and particularly there's a few things we did in the past which they want to try and avoid those mistakes. So let's go through the chat as well. Also, thanks to people that joined the watch along, the late post night match. I know depending on which country you're in, it's actually I've got a few American friends that because it was on a Monday night, they couldn't get involved because it's just that they're working. It's annoying. But I think for UK fans as well, it's quite late on a Monday night. But welcome, Cody, Jim, and Rob in the chat as well. And also Jules, a few legends, John, and I'll try and go through a lot of the names. Lumen, Neil, and Howard. Hope everybody enjoyed the match, like really enjoyed the match. And say, Lumen says you were clearly convincing us on Carrick. I'm just putting the information out there. You can make your own decision regarding this one, but it's another win. It's a win against a team which has been a regular problem for Manchester United over the last few years. Brentford are a dangerous team, and it's no surprise that Brentford scored a goal. They almost always score. They're a very strong attacking team, and I think Manchester United they did what we did what we had to do. We played very good football in the first half. We created a lot of chances. In another, we could be talking about a really convincing win if Jallo's shot goes in and Harry Maguire's header's not cleared off the line, we could be talking about Man United potentially 3 or 4 up at half time. So the quality of the football was amazing in the first half. The chances created were great. And this is with Cunha was missing a key player. We didn't really have loads of options on the bench. So it felt like we had to get the job done with the first 11, and we really did. So I think there's a lot of positives to talk about. And for me, I know it's we're looking at a situation where the second half was more difficult, but again, I don't think you can shut out a Brentford team for 90 minutes. I don't think anyone does. It's like the Premier League has got some tough teams. Brentford, I spoke to match-going fans last night, and they said, fair play. Brentford are a great team. They made it very difficult. They really fought for everything, and we had to put in a good performance. And that's what I'm going to say. That so this is the first story to talk about in terms of Jamie Carragher saying that he thinks Michael Carrick is pretty much going to be the head coach next season. I think at the moment, the story I saw about 2 or 3 weeks ago was Champions League football would convince them. I think this is going to be, if Manchester United can then replicate the performance and maybe replicate the result against Liverpool, I think it would be. I'm not saying they would announce it then, but there would be almost like all the information you need. If United finish above Liverpool, beat Liverpool twice in the season, and Michael Carrick would then have beaten Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City. So there's no more Carrick can do. There isn't any more Carrick and the coaches can do in terms of what they've done. So if Carrick doesn't get the job, then Carrick can have his head held high and probably walk into a different Premier League position. I think he really would get a lot of opportunities to join other teams. So no negatives for Carrick for me last night. And talking about his tactical change as well, he said about 5, 6 minutes before half time, just for the second goal, we were a bit too exposed. Again, I think it's the speed of attack from Brentford and the aggression they have. But in a different game, maybe maybe Brentford take one of those chances. But I think you got to give credit to Lamans as well. When Man United were exposed, Lamans stepped up, made some key saves, a couple of defensive interventions as well. Aiden Heaven playing well. So, yeah, Brentford are a good team, but I think you also have to give credit to our goalkeeper stopped them. Our defence actually was keeping them at bay in the second half. But he said they were trying to. Michael Carrick's plan was try and change things a bit, bring in a bit more defensive stability, and still keep the attacking threat. So these are things that Michael Carrick's thinking about, the coach is thinking about. There was a lot of chances both ends. These are both two teams that create a lot of chance. So I'm going to go through the chat and see what people think. Has he changed your mind? I mean, what I would say is that if you're watching football, then it's absolutely fine to change your mind every sort of few matches. You just get more information. That's what I'm saying. Jill says it was a great match, tough contest. 100%. Like when we were talking before the match, to put it into context, it's up there, the video yesterday, the first sort of hour before the game, before even kickoff, there were people actually messaging in the comments. There were people actually, and my co-host at the time said I'd take a draw. So before the match, I know there was fans on camera on this channel saying they'll take a draw. I thought it was close. I thought this could be like a 2-2, could be a 2-1. I don't think we were surprised by how good Brentford's attack has been this season. But again, maybe Brentford defensive issues possibly cost them this season a bit, so they do concede a decent amount of goals. But no, tough contest and maybe a solid win. A different sort of performance to the Chelsea game because Chelsea were really not on form, whereas Brentford are a team that are actually they haven't lost for about 6 games, so they're a difficult team to beat. United so die also welcome to the chat. Yari says fantastic first half, second half. Say you're saying it's not good. So I guess with this one, I think Michael Carrick's thinking like he's looking at trying to change it a bit because it was quite an open game. And I think United, one of the things that was going to happen, I say, yeah, I'd love United to have got like Bruno's his second assist. I think there was a lot of players in Brentford's team that take some credit. I mean, Jensen, very good. Potter looked class. There's a lot of quality in Brentford's attack. We're saying about it before the match, but also maybe looking at this one that it, it's difficult because it's a balancing act, isn't it? That Brentford were always going to improve and Brentford were always going to be good. They had to go for it when it was 2-0 down, so they had to throw caution to the wind a little bit. And Manchester United did have something to protect. Maybe the issue also is going to be when you looked at the bench, Manchester United, Cunha missing. We had Dorgu coming back from injury. You've got Lacey as an option. So United really had to get the job done in the first half with the starters. That's what I feel. So in terms of like how we had to win this game, I think we actually did that quite effectively. That I don't think we had the game changers on the bench. Like Benjamin Sesko started, scored. I think lots of things went our way. Lamans made some key saves when he had to. And again, this is something like David Hay used to do. We got a goalkeeper that make some good saves when we're under pressure. And sometimes different people in the team step up. Like last night, Bruno Fernandes obviously got the assist. Casemiro with a nice goal. Harry Maguire got an assist. Could have got a goal as well. So Aiden Heaven was good. Kobe Mainu looked very, very good last night. So lots of key performances. And I think what we're seeing this season is not every single player is going to be amazing every night, but there's enough players in the team that step up each game. And it's kind of at the moment, it's getting us where we need to be. Next season, you'd imagine there will be more quality in the squad as well. So potentially there'll be more options to change things in an aggressive way as well. So it might be that next season, this sort of game, Manchester United might have some other options apart from going more defensive. They might have some more options to try and control the game, but we didn't really have that at the moment. And United side Dice says Michael Carrick came in, steadied the ship. He's brought back Champions League. I'm so looking forward to Champions League football. That is one thing that to get back into that competition, the new format, to get to play all these big European teams. We've been kind of sat on the sideline watching all these sort of like we've been watching Newcastle, Spurs, Aston Villa, and all these different teams in the Champions League over the last couple of seasons, and it's so frustrating. But finally, it's kind of there. I was going to have this conversation as well today and say if Michael Carrick's in charge, it feels like that. Okay, for some people, it might not be their favourite option, but it doesn't feel like it's a risky option. It doesn't feel like we'd be sat here looking at suddenly Manchester United dropping down the league. It feels like there's like a bit of sustainability about it, if that makes sense. I get that my view is going to be what is the worst that could happen regarding this one? Like, what is the worst that could happen if Michael Carrick was in charge? So I think we've seen a reasonable amount of games since January the 17th. We took over, I think it was that date, and Manchester United are still picking up more points than other teams and we don't have the squad, we don't have the depth of other teams. So, yeah. Rob says, I think Lamans was the signing of the summer. I think, honestly, in terms of like value for money, I would challenge anybody to find a better value for money signing than Lamans. And also, this kind of like leads into other stories I've been seeing this morning in terms of where Manchester United's transfer strategy lies, because Lamans was a brilliant signing, like really good. The goalkeeping scouts they looked at Lamans. He was recommended by the scouts, so the scouts chose wisely, and Pavel and the people at the top of United backed the scouts. So it was a really good call. There was about 10 goalkeepers we were linked to, and they'd all cost at least like 2 to 3 times Lamans. Good signing. And this is kind of like looking at Manchester United transfer strategy because there has been a lot of information in the media today about how Manchester United are going to be building for the future, what we're going to be doing as well. And so Culture Spot says so looking at this comment, you're saying the old problems with defensive midfield have returned and say, what's the solution? I think the solution for Manchester United is going to be like Casemiro is an effective player. In 90-minute Premier League games, he's not going to be as effective towards the end of matches against high intensity teams. Like he's brilliant at what he does. He's very good at winning the ball back. He's actually an elite finisher now this season. He's really good. I think there's only one midfield player in his position that may have scored more goals this season. But what you're looking at next season is Manchester United will have more options. So it's not going to be that Michael Carrick at the moment. You've got to work with what's in the squad. You've got to use the players at your disposal. But next season there will be more people to choose from. So there will be more options. All the younger players like Aiden Heaven, Yoro, Dorgu, probably Komenu as well. All these players are more than likely going to improve. Like some of them significantly, but it's not a straight line with improvement and experience. And I think we saw last night that Komenu's got some quality there, some top quality passing, some great control, really nice footwork. And you can see Aiden Heaven getting more and more confident. And he's still, if you look at games wise, Aiden Heaven is still so young in his career. It's like half a seasons of experience. So it's honestly, I think if you're looking at the squad as a whole, most of these players are going to be improving like year on year. And United Dice says, imagine you reinforce the defence with new fullbacks. You've got Lamans. And so we could have the best defence and goalkeeper in the league. And you say, I hope Ineos build off this. So whether they build in defence or not, I'm not 100% sure. But all I would say is Aiden Heaven could move from being very much on the periphery this season to being genuinely a top quality regular starter for Manchester United over the next season. It's still going to be it's still going to be a learning experience, and maybe for Aiden Heaven and Yoro, Champions League football could be coming at a perfect time for their development. So it could be that they're going to be looking at this one. Welcome to the chat, Tom, and say you actually had to stop yourself from throwing your phone when you saw we're signing Lamans over Martinez. I think honestly, at the time, I was talking about this with Lamans, and at the time, my initial reaction was, I don't know much about Lamans. Like statistically wise, Lamans was very, very good, but he's playing in a completely different league. And so you can look at the data, but you have to say give some credit to the scouts. The scouts went there, they watched him play, and yeah, they were very impressed and they recommended him. It's honestly, I think the reason it took so long was just that it took a no, it maybe took some convincing for Manchester United to do this. And so to get some Yeah, if Man United, like, I don't know what's going to happen with Delit, but if Manchester United actually looked at building around, I think what they've done here is, if you look at the back four, essentially they've got the future in the middle, haven't they? We've got Aiden Heaven, we've got Lenny Yoro, and the right back and left back are the same. But that's something that you've also got to be looking at in the future. Whether they look at it in this window or not, I think they're definitely looking at left back options. So I think left back is going to be, something that Man United look at either this window or quite soon. I'm kind of not sure what's happening with the other side, but again, I think United's priority will be midfield this season. I think that's something that we're all thinking, and maybe, maybe that's going to be depending on what we can see. Welcome, Natasha, to the chat. Good to see you. Uh, it's one of these games where, honestly, lots of talking points. Big Dog says you'll be disappointed if Carrick gets the job. Say football worth. Well, I don't know when the last time Gareth Southgate was in charge of a club team, but I think with Southgate, I think the conversation with Southgate's not really relevant. Like Europe, if you're looking at World Cup football or knockout football, it's a bit different, isn't it? Like Southgate as a club manager, I think was pretty poor. But if you watch the first half, though, you're disappointed by. So I don't know quite how counter-attacking football is considered lucky. Like if you win the games, you create chances, your goalkeeper's playing well. Like the fact that Lamans makes good saves is exactly the opposite of what we saw with Binder. So I don't know. Say you think our football is boring without wing backs, but you were encouraged by the 3-5-2 last night. Although I think with this one, like, one thing we have been talking about over this season is Michael Carrick comes in. His job is essentially to get Manchester United back to the Champions League, and that will be his job done. But whether his job extends beyond that, I think it's going to be something for the club to decide. I don't think we can be. No, I don't think we're going to be finding out immediately. I think what they're expecting is maybe they announce it at the end of the season. But um, I have got a poll running in the comments to gauge people's opinions. I know it's going to be a bit of a divisive point, possibly. But do you think Carrick will be in charge? That is Champions League football essentially going to, isn't it? Is Champions League football going to be the thing that decides it? And also, are we going to be seeing potentially with different players coming in next season? Are we going to see Manchester United maybe change the way we play as well? I know they've both been managers at Middlesbrough, but one was like 20 plus years ago, so it was a long time as well. And so Real says Southgate he's saying get Southgate. Say, but Southgate's got a lot of players to choose from. I mean, Southgate's got some elite players. If Michael Carrick had Anderson, Bellingham, Kobe Mainu to choose from, I think we'd be a bit more critical. I think maybe the critical thing about England is they haven't got over the line this one. So, but Carrick doesn't actually have too many. I think like that's the issue I've got. I don't think there's a lot of options for Michael Carrick at the moment. With Cunha missing, and with Dorgu injured, there wasn't. I think the tack pretty much picked itself. Unless you want to throw, say, Lacey in, or you want to look at players like I think it would have been like Lacey played in the under 21s a couple of days ago, didn't he? So I don't think he was going to be coming in. I think Dorgu was essentially rested because we're winning the game, and I think the idea is going to be that Dorgu, Cunha will be important players against Liverpool. So I think towards the end of the game, when Manchester United are winning it, that's kind of like the factor as well that we have got Liverpool on the weekend, and that's going to be potentially the game that clinches everything, gets Champions League football. But Bruno can maybe match the assist record in that match as well. So there is possibly that in mind that everybody watching knows the squad's not deep enough. Like we know that as a fact. So I think the expectation would be different next season, 100%. United Dice says, so at this point, I know people will talk about whether they find the football entertaining or the style of play. I think the first half last night, though, Harry Maguire could have scored. That was a great save. Amajolu should have scored, and we saw a good header from Casemiro and Benjamin Sesko. Really nice move. If you consider like the first goal, Manchester United were pretty much on the front foot for a lot of the game. So I don't think it's a reliance on counter-attacking football. I think we got a balance of Now, counter-attacking, we're very good. Like are very good attacking, counter-attacking wise, but that's always been a hallmark of Manchester United. I think from the 90s, Manchester United have always been incredibly good counter-attacking. But last night we started the game, put Brentford under pressure, and Brentford looked like under the cosh a bit in the first half. I know Brentford are dangerous as well, but the game was quite open. So I think the second half was different. Obviously, they made some changes, but I think also United didn't really have. If we had maybe more options on the bench, maybe we could have done things a different way. But yeah, we got the results, and it's credit to the some of the defensive players. Credit to maybe Lamans as well. Got a lot of credit for that. United says Eric Ten Hag, Amrin, and say it didn't work, but I think they maybe at the moment Michael Carrick, the way he's doing things probably works with what we're how our squad is at this point in time. I say if Brighton loses one, we get champions. I think if Brighton draw a match, then I think that's it. I think we got a decent, a decent amount. So yeah, I think with fans have different views. It reminds me a bit of West Ham when West Ham played quite exciting football but weren't very good. Fans were okay with that, but when West Ham were quite high up the league, the fans were criticising the style of play. It depends. It's personal opinion, isn't it? I don't particularly find Manchester City a great watch. A lot of games. Well, they have improved a bit over the season, but to the start of the season, Manchester City were pretty poor in a lot of games. I would say even like the games this season, Pep Guardiola's had a lot of 1-0 wins. We've seen Liverpool grind out a lot of 1-0 wins. Arsenal have been pretty boring this season. If you watch Arsenal play, a lot of games they've struggled as well against low blocks. So again, there's going to be a lot of things now. Chelsea can't catch United, so it's literally I think it's literally going to be. Is it just Brighton that can catch United now? But Brighton have got to win every single match. We play Brighton as well. We need 1 point, like 1 point to lock up Champions League football. But I think in reality we're probably going to finish hopefully higher than fifth anyway. So if there was four places, I think it'd be absolutely fine. So looking at this one, yeah, there's no point in really talking about Amrin. That I think Amrin was a bad appointment because they weren't really going to back him what he wanted. So regarding that yeah, Amrin maybe didn't get what he was promised, but then Amrin also wasn't able to work with the squad to get results. So it's no, it's 50-50. I think with that one, it's not really worth talking too much about Amrin, but he might go somewhere else, and we can look at that. So to go to Manchester United's transfer strategy as another point of discussion, what are people's thoughts regarding the window? Regarding, I know we're talking about head coach. We don't actually know who's going to be permanent head coach next season, but Manchester United have come out and said a few things. One of the things they're talking about is that they're going to try and avoid mistakes they've made in the past. They've made a lot of mistakes. So specifically, there's a couple of things they're looking at. One is going to be just to quickly. So there are a few articles out there. So one of them is going to be that potentially, well, actually, a lot of the time they have pursued certain players, Frankie de Jong, for example, and then they haven't got that player. And the idea is going to be they're going to try and avoid those sort of long, protracted negotiations, possibly where the player hasn't really indicated he wants to join Manchester United, which makes sense. And maybe the most comparable transfer with that regard at the moment would be someone like Elliot Anderson. So there was this. They used the picture of Anderson just to put this back on and say the feeling at Old Trafford is the approach will be different. Whereas last time we actually used to go for certain players like Frankie de Jong, pursue him constantly for like the whole transfer window when there wasn't really a lot of indication he was interested. So that's something that's not going to happen. That's one thing I think is definitely a positive. I think also there's going to be an idea that they're going to have this also links into Anderson as well. That Manchester United are also determined not to be held to ransom over transfers this season. So in terms of price, this is one where I think some people have different views on this. There will be some people that look at it and say, there's certain players pay whatever it takes, but I don't think that's going to be Manchester United's strategy this summer. I think Manchester United are looking at it thinking if they have a valuation, and it could be any player, could be like Tonali, could be Anderson, could be an endless number of players, and maybe this is what happened with Emi Martinez last season. It could be what happened with Ollie Watkins as well. They've got a view that I think United said that if Ollie Watkins was maybe 15 to 20 million pounds cheaper, he might have been an option. So there's going to be a few players that United look at. It might be Anderson, Tonali, Baliba, Alex Scott. There's going to be all these players they're looking at, and I think they're going to put maybe a price cap on what they think this player should cost, and then if the price starts escalating, Manchester United will not be getting involved. So I think this is a reason why potentially potentially they're going to be looking at, and again, we don't know until we actually see serious offers come in, but potentially Manchester United are going to have an idea of how much this player should cost, what the valuation is. If it starts going beyond that, they're going to walk away. So I'll be interested to see how much Anderson goes for. How much if Man United buy three midfielders, how much will he actually spend on each player? Is probably going to be one that I think we were looking at a cap of possibly looking at maybe the sort of money we spent for between Cunha and Sesko. That's sort of 65 to 70 million. I think that's going to be where Manchester United feel they could get these deals done. And is that sensible? What do people? Because again, this is something that's happened in the past. This is something that in the past United have spent very big on certain players, and I think some people actually look at it and say, so if we're going for best in class, there would have been talks with Anderson already. You're saying, but and with Elliot Anderson, if Elliot Anderson does not want to join Manchester United, then that's kind of a Frankie Jong situation where if he's not interested, then there's not really much United can do. I think United, according to Fabrizio, I mean Fabrizio says something every single day about this one, but according to Fabrizio, Manchester United are still in the conversation as that, but it probably depends on Manchester City looking elsewhere. If I'm honest, Yolis says if this is true that United won't pay, we won't get many good players. I would say that okay, this is something that we probably have to discuss after the deals when we get closer to the transfer window. But if you're looking at Manchester United having a potential cap on it, I think it still means that United might still spend big if they think a player's worth that amount. But if they think Anderson's worth, I don't know, say 75, 80 million, and the price starts going closer to 100, they won't go for that. If they think Belieber's worth 60, 65, but Brighton wants 75, they won't do that. So we have seen a little bit of evidence with that with Branthwaite, where I think Manchester United offered it might have been like 55 to 60, something like they offered quite a lot of money to Everton a couple of years ago, and I think Everton might have wanted 65 or something like that, and Manchester United walked away, didn't pay it. So I think there's evidence to suggest that maybe Manchester United do have this in mind. I remember a story last year about probably probably towards the mid kind of negotiation point from Buemo, where Omabrada said, "Look, we've got a price we think he's worth, and that's the price we're going to pay." So I think at the time it felt slow, and at the time people were saying just pay whatever Brentford want, but I don't think that's going to be what Manchester United do. So I think we're looking at these transfers, and if you're looking at some of these players we're looking at, I say I know the comments saying if we don't pay, we won't get many good players, but I think you can get Angela Stiller, you can get Alex Scott, you can probably get Belieber for not a bad price. You can also get João Gomez as three midfield players, but maybe they will still spend quite big on one player. I just don't think they're going to be throwing lots of money at every single transfer. Like there's going to be there might still be like a big signing, but I don't think they're going to be like a Florian Wirtz, Isak, those sort of deals. I don't think are going to happen. But I think you can look at it and say, like for Florian Wirtz, you could have got another midfielder. There's other options out there that potentially will be make a lot more sense. Yeah, I did see this one. I mean, I think with Brighton end of the season, I think we'll already be above Brighton then anyway, so I don't think it'll be an issue. But our games aren't particularly easy. So United, so Dice says we can't sign the best. That's reality. So I don't know if they can definitely outspend us. Like financially, Manchester United should be able to compete. It depends on the motivation of the owners. I think it might be more difficult for Chelsea this summer because they've got a lot of players under big contracts. I don't see Chelsea actually managing to sell apart from maybe Enzo Fernandez. If he goes, and City do spend quite big money on him. That's the only way I can see Chelsea spending a lot of money this summer. I mean, assuming that these teams, Liverpool and Manchester City, the one thing they've got going for them is they're regularly in the Champions League positions, and getting back into that market is something United need to do as well. So you're worried by this post. United has let out we're looking for a striker, two midfielders, a left back. Um, I would say that United are looking for a lot of things, but until the transfer window plays out, a lot of it is going to be. I think that a lot of people don't trust Man United because of previous seasons. I think things are moving in the right direction transfer wise. The fact we're talking about Lamans as a really positive signing, but not costing a lot. If we'd have looked at all the goalkeepers available at the time, I think most people would have chosen a goalkeeper that probably cost double Lamans. Like there's loads of goalkeepers at 25, 30 million that were moving clubs. And in the end, United spent less, but got an actual better player. So there is potential out there. So Mark says Eddie Howe should be England manager. Maybe that's what he's looking for if he leaves Newcastle. So Ineos will say we will never win the league under Ineos because I think at the moment in time it's almost difficult to predict what Ineos' strategy is. I can see why people are skeptical because they've been doing a lot of cost cutting around the club, lots of those sort of things happening. But I think United, if they got ambition, they'd have to sign quite a lot of players, and you have to. The reality is, if you want the best players in the world, you're going to have to spend quite a lot of money getting those players, but you're going to also have to spend quite a lot of money on salaries. So when we're looking at someone like too many, you'd have to factor in he might cost £70 million, but you're going to have to spend a lot on his salary. It's like I think Anderson's got a 5-year contract on the table from City, so it's been said of about 200k per week, and that's probably what United would be looking to have to try and do. If you want to get players like Semenyo and Anderson, you're going to have to make a significant offer. But just because United don't need to pay more than these clubs, but you can't pay less. Like United can't be paying less than teams with a lower budget. That's just it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Welcome to chat, Lucky. And you're saying like Carlos Baliba. You're saying like he's the player we should buy. So a lot of competition for João Gomez. Then João Gomez is a really good option for quite a cheap price. A West Ham relegation puts Fernandez on the market for 34 million. So there's a lot of good players out there that don't need to cost a lot of money. And again, it depends on which players want to be in Man United. And again, if Anderson joins Man City, it's Man City. He might not even be a regular starter. It might be that he's not as effective. He might not be able to do the things he does at Forest because he's going to have to be more disciplined and maybe it's more limited. So it's difficult to kind of guess how a certain player is going to work out for a different team. I think Jack Grealish would have had more impact at Manchester United than Manchester City, based on what his strengths were. I think he was still decent for City. They still did well, but yeah, I think different players will be suitable for different clubs. And the fact City are going to sign potentially somebody like Anderson, I mean, it's not great for United, but there's other options out there. So and a couple of years ago, Anderson was probably not on anybody's radar anyway. So in a year's time, there'll be another player that people think is almost Anderson this season is being talked about pretty much the same way that Belieber was last season. And if you go back another couple of years, you probably pick in another player that would have been talked about. So I think United are looking at so many good players that we could be talking about Angela Stiller as coming in with João Gomez, and actually Manchester United's midfield looking pretty good. If too many's in the mix, then potentially that's another top player that could be coming. But no, I agree with Stephanie. I think Manchester United are somewhat in the mix, but I think with João Gomez, Atletico Madrid are probably seriously interested because Atletico Madrid have got Edison agreeing terms, but I think João Gomez might be a more interesting option for them. So I think with these deals, United can't wait too long, but we'd have to see how proactive we're going to be once the transfer window opens. And Joel says, yeah, it might be easier to list the players we're not looking for. And I think at the moment, maybe right wing. I don't think Manchester United are going to go for a right back, and it seems like the right hand side that whether you like Dallo or Mazraoui, it seems like we've got enough options there. Because it's because we've got to do other work this one. And say, yeah, once Manchester United get back into the Champions League, which we almost are, I think the difference is going to be that we can spend, and we might see a drop off from teams like Newcastle could never really spend. It might be that Chelsea struggle to spend, and actually Arsenal have spent quite a lot more. Arsenal spent 1 billion, but I don't look at Arsenal as a team that's going to dominate things for years. They look like a team that's struggling to get over the line for one competition. Arsenal have won no trophies for 5 years. So spending huge money, you've also got to spend it wisely. Potentially, there's a few Arsenal players that then leave. If they don't win anything this season, there might be tempting offers for a few of their key players, particularly from Real Madrid, looking at some of the defenders. But no, if once we get in the Champions League, you should be looking at saying that there's a few things we could look at doing, but also it should be a lot easier to attract top players, and it should be a factor that if a player decides they want to join Man United, a Champions League qualification is a factor. We can definitely look at that. At the moment, they've got the poll running. It looks like most people, whether you want him or not, it looks like most people are probably thinking Michael Carrick will be in charge next season. Maybe there's going to be a couple of tactical changes behind the scenes. It might be that Michael Carrick and his coaching staff, and maybe they tweak that a little bit as well. But I think there's definitely, um, I think the coach has done a good job. You can see the progression with some of them. But just to go back to Carrick quickly, it might be that Man United they had to make a lot of decisions quite quickly in January regarding who's part of the coaching staff. And if you look at the coaching staff, you can say, like, maybe they can look at adding an extra coach. Maybe they can look at someone that's got some different tactical ideas. Because Michael Carrick's one person, Holland's another. But I think Woodgate and Evans, for example, have been working extremely closely with Aiden Heaven. There's been like lots of social media posts about that, and I think we can see Aiden Heaven really developing. If you look at maybe looking at maybe possibly some other coaches, maybe more attacking. Look at trying to develop Almajalo. He's a player I think that's still quite young, can still hit a different level. I think Kobe Mainoo is a player that you've also got to make sure he develops really well. I think we definitely got kind of like parts in the team where you think that they could be part of a team that gets Champions League football again next season, does okay in the Champions League. So yeah, so then Carrick definitely gets the job. 89% of people are thinking that at the moment. I'm not going to try and say it's a done deal, but I think it's really close. That the other options on the table seem to be Vivell would like Nagelsmann. I'm starting to think that given what's happened at the club over the last few years, and given that the results are improving a lot, I'm just wondering whether Manchester United feel like this could be like a period of maybe a period of like having some sort of continuity from this season to next season. And so Dice said if we get Carrick as permanent manager, get Hackney in, you say he will thrive. Now Hackney would be a good signing for that sort of that sort of price. The worst case scenario, honestly, the worst case scenario is if Carrick's in charge and things drop a lot next season, then he won't be around for too much longer, will he? But how risky is it? I suppose if you're looking at this situation, like Michael Carrick's not perfect. No one's going to say that. He's doesn't have the experience regarding some of the other managers, but maybe he's got a few also attributes that he knows he knows what it takes to be a player at the highest level. He knows the pressures and the demands of Manchester United. He knows that the Premier League very well as well. And I think overall, like the performances this season have been like quite erratic over the whole season. But over the last few months, there has been better games, and I know people will question a lot of things as well. You're saying I can understand saying Carrick should stay, but Woodgate is you're saying one of his worst coaches. I can say I don't know personally how much Woodgate has an impact, but Woodgate and Evans apparently taking credit. There's credit being given to them for Aidan Evans' development. That's what I'm going to say. But regarding this Manchester United behind the scenes, with more time and a pre-season, you can look at adding to the coaching staff. Like Alex Ferguson had Carlos Queiroz, he had Phelan, he had um, multiple different, like even from like Brian Kidd, he had loads of different assistant managers over over 20 years. And I think that's what United could look at. If they think Carrick should stay, I think give him some help with some different people behind. Not necessarily, I'm not saying get rid of everybody. What I'm saying is just have a look at the situation, see what different coaches are bringing, maybe look at appointing new coaches. I mean, there was like talk of Van Nistelrooy being a coach, but I think Van Nistelrooy, since he became interim manager, I think he's like only looking for those sort of jobs now. So I think there's like scope to try and tweak things a little bit behind the scenes. So it doesn't have to be Carrick or Nagelsmann. It could be Carrick with a different backroom staff or a slight change to his backroom staff, and then look at because Nagelsmann would bring in completely new coaches as well, and it would be. I'm not saying it would be worse. I'm just saying it would be there'd be different risks. Like Nagelsmann coming in could work really well, and to be honest, as the alternative stand, I think Nagelsmann was one of the more interesting ones that we discussed. I think Luis Enrique would be that if Luis Enrique said, I want to come join Manchester United," we have a different conversation, 100%, don't we? It's tricky. And so I'd like to get Champions League, say, on Sunday, and maybe Carrick can show us something different in the last couple of games. It's Michael Carrick's in a really good position for himself because he can. No, he's got a few games now to. If we get a point against Liverpool or we beat Liverpool and Champions League football's locked up, then maybe Michael Carrick, he's got a little. No, he's got a couple of games to maybe change things or to. It's almost like a job interview. Michael Carrick's there. He's in charge of Manchester United. A few more games. If he does something different or shows that shows a few things that he can do, maybe that's going to be a factor. But I think there's certain people at Manchester United that will always be looking at other options. So this is something that's beyond Michael Carrick's control. All he can do is do as well as he can. Welcome, Nems, to the chat. Good to see you. How ironic if I saw that and it almost made me laugh a little bit and said, if Carrick brought Ollie back as one of his backroom staff, I don't think no, I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be coming in that regard. But I don't know, it would be strange, Stephanie. So I don't think it would be maybe because Ollie was in charge at one point. I just think it would be a strange one. So I don't think that would happen. But no, I mean they're not going to go down the Roy Evans like joint manager approach Liverpool did, are they? So I don't know, but no, it's a bit like looking at other sports teams. Like a rugby team has a defensive coach, an attack coach, and if you get elite coaches in different positions, I think United we just didn't have a lot of time in January, so we didn't have loads of time at the moment to at the time to bring in different people, and I think that's a factor. Michael Carrick came in, and at the time, most people thought, "Are we going to get European football?" Welcome, Gaz. Good to see you. What was is this a conversation about transfer fees? I think most transfers are paid in installments. Like when people look at it, I think almost all transfers are paid in installments. So Manchester United will always have transfer debt because you pay for players in installments. Manchester United will always be owed money for players we sell as well. Do you remember Lukaku? Like Inter Milan paid that over about 5 years, I believe. So you big transfers are always paid in installments. They're always amortized over the books over like say 4 or 5 year period. It's the same for every club. So every club will have. If you're looking at some of the like Liverpool will be paying for these transfers over years. Like they'll be paying probably like 20% per year on Verts or something like on Isak. So these are just worked financially over years because they're very big purchases. So any deal we do will be paid for in installments. £100 million 20 million per year. So you can spend more. Yeah, exactly. I think if a player comes through the academy, you can realise that on the book straight away. And that used to be how we looked at it. But if Man United wanted to spend, just if he wanted to spend 100 million on Anderson, I think we could. But if we don't, I think we're choosing not to because we think maybe for 70 million, we can get a player that is largely as effective as Anderson. And I think it's a decision that potentially could benefit the team if we're looking at that. So I think United can spend more than people think. If you think about the players leaving, Anderson, so Rashford, if it's like 25 million, you know, that would be still counted as an academy player. That would be profit on the books. So and I think Anana wouldn't be a loss because he's been there for a few years. I think if you're looking at Rasmus again, he's been there a couple of years, so that's not going to be a financial loss either. And I think Agate will be similar money, Xerxes will be similar money. might be considered, considering most of that signing will already be written off through the books. I think that will actually be a slight profit as well. So financially, Man United can spend, and it is honestly like how much they want to spend might be determined by potentially the amount of deals they want to do. So if we're having this conversation where like should Man United spend 100 million on Anderson, maybe the conversation is should be should Manchester United spend very big on an Anderson or a Tonali, or should we spend a little bit more on Upton, Angela Stiller, Belieber, Alex Scott, um, maybe Joe Gomez, but also then have money for other aspects of the team? So it could be a question between would you go for five signings where two of them cost close to 100 million, or would you go for seven to eight signings where the most expensive is like 65 to 70? And I think United showed last window that in the summer, we went for Benjamin Sesko, Cunha, and Buemo. We weren't going to spend more than that. Like, we weren't looking for players like Isak or Burts. We weren't looking at that sort of price point, but we were looking at trying to get the squad fixed in some regard. Lamans was the perfect example, I think, of a signing where Lamans was maybe the cheapest goalkeeper that moved that I was kind of looking at last season, and it's potentially the best we could have got. So really interesting. But no, good point, Gaz. Like good point that there's a lot more deals Man United can do because the financial situation is actually quite strong. Lucky Singh, you're saying you're sticking with the manager. Say people on X running the agenda that Kevin De Bruyne is better than Bruno because of trophies, and say people are panicking because the player they're going to have that is going to have the record's going to go, and it's going to be a difficult conversation for fans because if Bruno Fernandes beats the record for assists and does it by playing half the season as a more defensive-minded midfielder, then it's outrageous. The figures are there, aren't they? And I think if you just look at some of Bruno Fernandes' assists, it's the winner against Liverpool. It's like key goals. It's the winner against Chelsea. These are key, like really key moments in matches. And I think last night, if you saw the goal last night, Bruno Fernandes set up for Benjamin Sesko. It's almost exactly the same move when he was running against Manchester City when he set up the goal for. I think it was like was it Mbeumo? Was it Mbeumo or Cunha? I think it was Mbeumo that scored the first. Actually, it might have been Cunha that scored that goal, but it was exactly the same goal where Manchester United like running in counter attack. Bruno Fernandes with the ball, running, making decisions, picking the right one leads to a goal. I think Bruno Fernandes' assists this season have been really good quality and really linking the attack. So I think it's a difficult conversation, isn't it? But yeah, they're different players, but I think Bruno Fernandes, like if Bruno Fernandes was playing in Manchester City, I think he gets more assists. And I appreciate they're not identical players, but I think that yeah, if you put Bruno Fernandes in a team that had Kevin De Bruyne, that had Haaland, for example, you could be looking at outrageous stats. So I think it's the same as like Sancho had very good statistics for assists when he played with Haaland. So I think if Bruno Fernandes had a couple of seasons with I don't know, not many striker options in front of him. If you put him in behind Urban Haaland or a prime Van Nistelrooy or something like that, you'd be getting crazy figures. Don't forget, I think Beckham was setting up a lot. He had two strikers to aim for a lot of the time when Beckham was playing football, and that's probably was Manchester United's previous assist record. But yeah, I think people always want to compare players, don't they? And to be honest, that the fact Bruno Fernandes is a Man United player, I think is going to be more than enough for me to like say. I think he's. I'm not going to say he's better than Kevin De Bruyne, but I think they're different players. They play in different teams. I think he's been Man United's best player for a while, put it this way. And so PFA Player of the Year this season. Could you pick an Arsenal player that's been better than Bruno Fernandes? I think they've got a better team this season, but I don't think they've got an individual that's done close to what Bruno's done. So I'm lucky saying that yeah, Brentford so many technical players. Brentford are a difficult team, like we said that as well. So um, for the rest of the stream, should we focus on Michael Carrick or should we focus on sort of transfer strategy? What are people's thoughts? The poll running. I was expecting it might be a bit closer, but it looks like people are going pretty much like 83% now are saying this one as well. RK says, sadly, you think Carrick will be the manager next season and say, I think United are going to get a yes man regardless. Like you have to be somewhat. complicit with like what's happening at the club to join as manager. I don't think we're going to get somebody that comes in with a different view to the people above him because that's just not going to be feasible, is it? So I think if you're looking for someone that's going to come in and have very different views to the people above him, that's not going to happen because you're not going to get as much say as managers would a few years ago. So Michael Carrick essentially that you have to probably be a yes man at Manchester United. That's why Tuchel was not employed. So it's going to be pretty tricky. I'd say if I don't know who you support all boxed up, but thanks for getting involved in the chat. I think if Bruno Fernandes was playing for Manchester City, he would also have a difficult situation staying in the team. So I think that's a fair point. That again, that's why we're talking about Anderson. If Anderson goes to Manchester City, Manchester City, being the club they are, the same sort of thing they did with Trafford, they might be looking at the next option as well. So Manchester City don't really, they're not going to sign just one player and hope that's enough. Manchester City will have their eye on multiple signings as well. So it is potential that yeah, if for example Anderson goes to Manchester City, they're probably going to buy another midfielder. So you never know. Like if Rodri goes, I wouldn't be surprised if Man City actually look at too many or Tonali or any other top midfield player. I think Manchester City aren't going to sign just one player. They're looking at Enzo Fernandez as well. So I would say if you're looking at joining Man City, you're not guaranteed to be a first team player. So Mark says we got rid of managers for not performing. If we have a poor transfer window, so people like Omar and Wilcox need to be fired. There's no excuse this year, is there? There's no excuse in terms of transfer window. We did nothing in January. Everybody, like we've been talking about this for months about transfer targets. So there is no excuse if they don't get things right. And actually, the stories that have been coming out about Manchester United not overspending or not messing about with certain transfers, they almost have to then. It's almost putting them under pressure to get things done, isn't it? So this story I'll just go back to for people that just tuned in. But Manchester United are not going to be doing this sort of long drawn out saga like they did with Frankie de Jong. They're going to try and get a couple of deals more rapidly. So if you think about last summer and Manchester United's first sort of signings, we went quite quickly into the market. We got Cunha very fast. Then we got Mbeumo started quite quickly. So it took a long time, but Mbeumo agreed to join Man United. Man United made it known they were going to try and buy him, and no other club was really interested after that. So it kind of got that deal at least started quite fast. And maybe what we're going to see this season is our Manchester United looking at midfield and thinking, let's do the same sort of thing. So get one or two deals done before the World Cup. And then, like with Benjamin Sesko was like the final piece in terms of our attacking transfers. Maybe we're going to be looking at getting two deals quickly before the World Cup, and then maybe there's going to be one more deal that takes longer. I don't think it's going to be Elliot Anderson. I'm not sure whether it would be Tonali. If it is Tonali, it would feel like that would be quite expensive. Is it going to be a too many? Now, is there going to be a situation that we have to wait for, like too many's contract situation, Rodri to Real Madrid? Maybe Angela Stiller's linked to Real Madrid. There could be one deal that, for whatever reason, just takes time because other clubs are involved in that deal. But potentially, we could be looking at getting two deals. This is kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen. If these stories are true, and Manchester United aren't going to be wasting time on players that don't want, and we're not going to be necessarily spending insane money. Is the plan going to be get a deal done quite quickly, get the second deal progressing quite quickly because that's what we did last year. Cunha and Buemo, it was a good start to the window. We did then go quite slow. But if United did two midfield deals early on, then that might pave the way to actually, some deals are going to take a bit longer just because they're more complex. So you're saying you think we'll buy Belieber and Hackney and call it a great window. Then I think the window needs to be bigger than last season. Like four players isn't going to cut it because Champions League football is a significant workload. It's a lot more games. But the budget should be. No, the story last season was Man United felt they could get away with things with a smaller squad because we had no European football. So the logic says we got Champions League football. We got way more games against higher quality opposition we need a better squad than we had 2 years ago with Europa League because Europa League we did well in that competition, but with the Premier League form dropped massively. So I think we do need to have a big squad. I think if I was going to say how many players are we going to sign, it would feel like if we got 7 or 8, I think I'd be honestly surprised. I'd be really surprised because it's not something that United have done for ages. We don't seem to have done volume. We seem to be quite slow. And so you're saying like no world class player wants to come. I think Cunha was like one of the best signings we made last season. I think Lamans has got potential to be one of the best. If you're looking at say if you say Anderson's world class, then he could well be playing alongside Kobe Mainoo in the World Cup. Like Mainoo could be playing alongside Anderson in that competition. And I think Mainoo's got a strong possibility of being featured. If not, then there's not much more he can do. He's been very good for Man United recently. But I think you could look at it and say if Anderson goes to City, everybody's thinking he's going to be amazing. If Tonali goes to, let's say, Arsenal or somewhere else, or Rodri goes to Real Madrid, some of these transfers might not work out. So it's really difficult to say how these are going to be working out. Mark says we have to sign a midfielder before any other club. So say if we wait for City to spend over 100 million on Anderson, then every midfield target will be valued around the same price. I thought, yeah, you're not the first person to say this, Mark, and I think I said it, and somebody else in the comments was saying it that if Manchester United were looking to do a first deal, you might be looking at say that there was a rumor we might be making a bid for Alex Scott. There was also links between Manchester United and a couple of other teams as well, Atletico Madrid, looking at maybe actually Leeds as well, Leeds United looking at trying to get João Gomez. That could be one where if you get a deal done for £40 million as a first deal, and that's your first transfer, then that's not going to be pushing the market up, is it? I think when we saw last year, we saw Florian Wirtz, we saw Isak, and suddenly you see average players that are going for like 60 million. So it could be like the first signing should be something that's cost effective, reasonably priced, and these are good options. These are the options I always push out there because I think they're a very sensible price. João Gomez, 35, 40, something like that one. If you're looking at Angela Stiller, potentially about 50 million. Again, that there's no actual price. There's no release clause for Angela Stiller now. That Angela Stiller is going to be depending on like Stuttgart accepting the value. But I think they would like to get as much as possible, obviously. But I think 50 million is probably going to be the minimum they'd accept. So it's going to be at least 50. I think Alex Scott is going to be at least 50, possibly. No, I think Bournemouth would want more, but it's actually really quite difficult. RK says we need at least three top level central midfielders to stand a chance. Now we have to have. I think it's unlikely that Manchester United would get knocked out early because I think the Premier League teams all did well this season, and I think that United would be that we should be able to get through to the knockout stage. That should be if we don't, I think something's gone wrong. Over 8 games, there's going to be some easier games, so I think United should be looking to get through that. But yeah, the Premier League form will suffer if we don't have a big enough squad. So you have to have a bigger squad. Look at Newcastle this season, really struggling. You're not sure if Carrick will be able to handle the Champions League. Um, it's honestly this is the one where I can't really say either way that no one knows if Michael Carrick and Manchester United squad after the transfer window will do well in Europe. It's just a complete unknown, isn't it? So Michael Carrick, I think, has got the fact he's actually beaten some top teams in the Premier League, managed to beat Arsenal, City, does suggest that against the best teams, we've actually got some good results. So Liverpool's the next one. It's going to be honestly quite difficult with that game, but that might be another bit of information. How Michael Carrick does against Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, absolutely, absolutely no idea. There's nothing to go on, is there? We have no idea how it's going to work. And I guess with this one, if it goes badly, then he won't be manager of Manchester United for very long. But if it goes well, then you feel like he has to be backed in the transfer window. I think Manchester United they're not stupid, but they must know they need a lot more depth in the transfer window. Do we sell Agati first or sign a new midfielder first? I think that well, if there's an offer on the table for Agate, I think you get the deal done. but you have to you have to be proactive. I think United can buy a player before Agate goes. Like we're not quick at selling players, are we? So I think Agate, I'm not sure where he's linked to. I think Galatasaray was something somebody said, potentially different leagues as well. But I would say for United, just get a deal done straight away. Did Newcastle struggle because of a smaller squad or inexperience of Eddie Howe in all four competitions? Honestly, it could be a combination of both. Weirdly, Eddie Howe actually did quite well in the Champions League. They almost beat PSG. They did okay in the group stage. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? With that. So I don't know. I think Newcastle struggled possibly because the squad doesn't have the depth. Also, Bruno Guimaraes was missing. He's their key player. They didn't have someone that could replace him. It could be also be, I don't know, but United, United would struggle with this squad. It wouldn't matter if it was Nagelsmann. It wouldn't matter if it was Luis Enrique. I think this squad would struggle with Champions League football and the Premier League next season if it wasn't bulked up a little bit, and that's just because of number of games. We're already, we're already having one game a week, and one game a week, and we effectively have no Kenya, no Dorgu. We've got there's lots of players, no, lots of positions on the pitch where there is no backup. So again, if you actually add an extra 15 games to 20 games on top of that, it's going to be more even more difficult, isn't it? Like so much more difficult. So I'll close the poll because it's really obvious like what the result was going to be. And it's like 84% of people think Carrick's going to be here next season. So cheers, Stephanie. I'll see you at 1 p.m. I might have an answer for your question about Agate then. There was a couple of stories I saw which we'll have to see that maybe it could be linked to players coming in as well. So looking at this one, I'll just people that just tuned in, I'll just put the Carrick thing back on there that it looks like this is the first thing I said. This is from United Scoop and Jamie Carragher saying they think it's a done deal, sort of. But that's something that's a point for contention. Clearly, if Carrick stays, the transfer window needs to be great. But it's the same as if Nagelsmann came in, the transfer window needs to be very good as well. Like it doesn't matter who's coming in. So let's look at a few of the comments. I hope you're wrong, RK. Like I hope you're wrong that if Carrick's given the job then it's the same as like Ruben Amorim getting the job. Whoever's in charge of Manchester United in terms of the first team, they've got to be backed adequately. But this team, we know this team is capable of Champions League football. With just with no European competition, you now need to like step up an extra level where we need to do better. That we need to be matching what Aston Villa have done this season. We need to be making sure, yes, all boxed up. Well, appreciate that, particularly as you're a Leeds fan. Nothing against that fact, but it's that because I'm a Manchester United fan, obviously I wouldn't have thought it would be your cup of tea. No pun intended. But no, thank you for that. I would say that Leeds are one of these teams as well. I think with Liverpool and Leeds, the good thing about the rivalry is you guys are proper fans as well. And I made this joke that you might have appreciated because I said when people were talking about the Etihad and being empty, my comparison was if if Leeds had a 60,000 seat stadium, I think it would be full. Like you got a more passionate fan base. I think Aston Villa, Leeds, Newcastle. I think they'd have bigger fan bases, and that's just for me. I've met a few Leeds fans in real life. I've met a lot. I've recently met Newcastle fans, a lot of Aston Villa fans, a lot of Aston Villa fans I've met in real life because of where I grew up. But I've only met one City fan in the wild. Obviously, I wasn't living in Manchester, but only one. And to be fair, he wasn't a glory hunter. He was actually older than I was, so not many moving around the country. But no, I appreciate that. So thanks. Varel, what are you doing? Like you forgot to pet? Never mind. Never mind. So if people got some questions as well, say Jamie Carragher's a brutal critic. Jamie Carragher hates Man United. I think that's clear to see. It'd be quite nice to see the same energy from Gary Neville towards Liverpool, but we don't see it, do we? So if I was a Man United pundit, then maybe I'd be too biased to do that job. But I'd like to see. It would have been nice if Gary Neville had actually showed the energy he did on the pitch towards Liverpool. But no, if Jamie Carragher thinks Carrick should get the job, then I think it's a results based business at the end of the day, isn't it? I know that we will disagree over aesthetics and we'll disagree over how the team should play, how the team should set up, etc. But I think it's going to be yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you, Mark. I'm not going to disagree. Um, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We are kind of working hard behind the scenes with like some of the guests, like regular guests that are passionate football fans that watch football for like decades. And again, I think we like to consider everything. So it is a it is what's the word? It's something that we think about as well. That we want to make the channel quite inclusive. So the fact that other teams supporters come here as well is appreciated. Even this morning, I've seen a Liverpool fan, a Leeds fan, an Arsenal fan, and as like Luca talks Arsenal to illustrate the point, all fans welcome. It's all good, all good. Because I think sometimes it's really interesting to know what rival fans think of. Because when Manchester United signed Aiden Heaven, I spoke to a couple of Arsenal fan channels, and they were pretty angry about the fact we got Aiden Heaven and Cheeto for a couple of million between them. And that for me was all the information I needed to know. And a big up to you, Luca. Any sort of final points? One thing I would say is, what do people think regarding Bruno Fernandes, one assist away from equaling the record in one of the weirdest seasons he's had? He was like, we lost to Man City early on in the season, and Bruno was getting criticised in that game because effectively he was the deepest line midfielder. He was effectively trying to protect the back four. This is not what Bruno can do. Bruno can't protect the back four. That's just not, it's just not his strength. And we've seen a transformation, I think, in Bruno Fernandes. I'm hoping that fans actually just appreciate what he brings to the team because he might be gone next. We have no idea. Bruno Fernandes might go, and it would be a shame, wouldn't it? Well, from my point of view, I think some fans would say good, but I think for me it would be a shame. Um, yeah, that was a terrible take, really terrible. But what was it? Leave the football before the football leaves you. If that was the case, then I think Jamie Carragher would have retired a couple of years earlier. Yeah, I don't mind subtle trolling. I can take it. I mean, if you're prepared to give trolling, you've got to be able to take it. It's fine, isn't it? That again, big respect to a Brentford fan in the comments last night to discuss the match. I have a lot of respect for that. So yeah, that sort of thing's happening as well. I mean, it's all like no, people like the fact that people have different views is excellent, isn't it? Yeah, Cara spitting nonsense. I think with this one, I think Carragher might be on something though. Like this might be the one time where I think that he's making a reasonable point, which I don't say very often. So this might be one of the only Jamie Carragher things I put on screen ever possibly. But no, he's acknowledging that he thinks that. Let's be honest. If Manchester United get a result against Liverpool and finish above Liverpool, even though we haven't had other distractions like European football, I think that what more can Carrick do? Like, yeah, that's the one thing that would maybe change a little, change an extra couple of percent regarding this one. Um, so any sort of final points? I will be live at 1 p.m. today, but if anyone's got any sort of final points for this one, I thought this would be, Man United won. Enjoy the win as well. I know fans have different views, but enjoy the win. A win against Brentford. Matchday fans were in the stream last night talking about it. It's Brentford are one of the best teams we played recently. They're way better than Chelsea at the moment, and they gave us a tough game, like a really tough game. After the disappointing performance with Leeds, the difference for me is going to be against Leeds, we didn't have Harry Maguire. I think he's a key player at the moment, this stage of the season. And also against Leeds, we did not have Kobe Mainoo. Those two players were both good last night. I think Kobe Mainoo is levels above Agate. I think at the moment, Harry Maguire and Aiden Heaven is the best available defensive unit we've got. And I think, unfortunately, we're missing Cunha, but I think that we had that stability we're lacking a little bit. Carrot, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we're not fans of. I don't think any Man United fan's going to like Carragher as a player either. And like you're saying, we're sorting out the mentality of the players at Manchester United. I think that's the one of the factors as well. That when I said about Manchester United's transfer strategy revealed in the thumbnail, and there was 3 points actually. You reminded me about one. One is going to be don't chase players that don't want to join Manchester United. The second point is don't overpay on individual players because you have to set expectations. I mean, when we talk about Anderson, Anderson's one of the best players at the moment in terms of buying him, but if he's 120 million, it becomes not the best option. Like there is options there that can still be good. So I don't think you need to break the transfer window record every season. You can sign good players. Like United have got a track record of signing good players under the radar, like Pallister, Bruce, Irwin. You get good players, Cantona, Schmeichel. These are all cheapish signings at the time. And at the moment, like Lamans and like last night, we had Aidan Heaven and Lamans, two people that were in a man of the match conversation, and between them they cost less than 20 million. So Lamans, the goalkeeper, was key. Aidan Heaven's been a key figure. Less than 20 million for those two players, and they could potentially be first team players. So that is a bargain. So if we don't get, we can still go for quite a big signing because we are buying people like Heaven and Lamans, but for me, that is key as well. If we can get one or two of those deals done, we can get seven people done, can't we? So seven people signed. If a couple of them are quite cheap, then we can still spend quite a big amount. And so, in your opinion, yeah, I didn't see too much of that one, but no, it's. I think Leeds. Like I was expecting Leeds to turn up against Manchester United because like it's Leeds. Like Leeds, you knocked us out of the cup when you were a Championship team, so Leeds are always going to be up for it. And actually, Leeds against us in was it '96 when we had was it '96 or '97? It might be '97 because it was towards the end of the season when we beat you 1-0 in route to beating Newcastle. Leeds were like putting in. You were about 4 or 5 places above the just the relegation, and you put in a massive effort. So Leeds will always step up against Man United, and that fair play. You expect that. I expected that. I was just not expecting Man United to be disappointing against Leeds, but I think there was players missing as well. But no, the key thing I was going to say as well is that Man United sorting out the mentality of the players signing. If you look at Lamans, ice cold, like nothing seems to phase Lamans. Aiden Heaven seems unfazed as well, seems like pretty calm for a 19-year-old. A 19-year-old playing in front of 70,000 people at Old Trafford. There's some players find it difficult to step up. I think even Cunha found it like a bit of a step up to join Manchester United. And I think when you put a teenager in, and also Ko Mainu as a teenager as well, he stepped up. He looks so composed as well. So some of the core of our team, if you go for like goalkeeper, centre back, midfield, we got three people there that are actually really young players. And this is where the rebuild starts. Like Lamans will be better in 3 or 4 years' time. Ko Mainu will be better in 3 or 4 years' time. Aiden Heaven will be better. And these are all sensible signings. And actually, Ko Mainu is an academy player. So this is sustainable. Like this sort of structure is sustainable to the club. Let's say Lamans was a Vivell signing, yeah. And so yeah, I agree with this as well. We need an under the radar sort of signing, like financially lower fee, but maybe they're going to one that maybe you don't notice in the first year, but someone that's going to be like maybe like I'm just trying to think like Vidic, Evra, those are more modern versions of players we signed. I think Lamans is the most recent, and Aiden Heaven are the most recent. So there is that history of us being able to do that, but it went a long time between Vidic and Evra to Lamans and Aiden Heaven. We just took way too long to try and do this as well. Way too long. Yeah. The only thing about this one is that from like any fan watching football, I think if it's a red card for one, it's a red card for the other. So I think with that one that they should have both been yellow cards already. Maybe the rules need to be amended, but it shouldn't be a red card for Lissandro and not a red. That it's yeah. It just needs to be consistent, and it needs to be like for me, it should just be a yellow card type thing. If it's like an accident, that sort of thing. But a bit, yeah, you know how it is. Let's say, yeah. So sadly, as fans, we talk of rebuilds, and then the Glazers do the minimal amount of transfers in and out. So, well, this is probably like another pivotal window, isn't it? We've gone last season from 15th. We've actually bought better players. We've gone back up the table. We kind of need to keep the momentum going, but I think we have to. But we'll have to see this window when we talk about it, and we'll be covering this obviously over the next few months on this channel. This window might give us an indication of where Manchester United's actual, how determined are we to get to where we need to be? How determined are we to catch Liverpool and to catch City and Arsenal? That we're not going to do it in one season, but we can put the building blocks in place where if you get the next generation of talent, which is what we look to be doing with Yoro Heaven, Lamans, Dorgu, we've got Co-Mania there already. If we get a few more key pieces in, we can't get everybody. Like we can't necessarily get every player we're linked to, but I think we can do enough so that you know players that City and Arsenal, Liverpool, they'll have to replace players at times over the next couple of seasons as well, and gradually we can close the gap. I feel, but again, it's a big window, and it's kind of a bit of a leap of faith at the moment. But over the next couple of months, we will honestly, probably be determining a lot more. So regarding this one, I spoke to a referee about a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, and he said that a lot of this had been. This is kind of a bit more of a recent thing as well. So I think this is an amendment to one of the rules in the football laws, and I think it's because of I think it's because of things that are happening in the US. It might be not necessarily 100% the men's game, but men's and women's game. And there was definitely things in America happening. I think more, this is like more prevalent there. So it might be that, unfortunately, it's never been talked about, has it? And it seems to be something that we didn't even think about. But I think there might be some amendments that maybe made it more punishable this season, which we didn't really realize. So it's potential something that hopefully they can like look at that because it's for me it's like it's stupid, isn't it? And it should be penalised. It's a foul, but it's not the same as a dangerous two-footed tackle that could end someone's career. It's petulant at worst. It's something that's annoying, but for me, it's like a professional foul. It's something that's deliberate and intentional. Should be penalised. Should be punished. But a red card missing the game, I don't think it should be that level. I mean, if a player does it and then does it again in a different game, maybe you can look at an escalation. But for like one-off things where it's kind of like half accidental as well in some instances. I agree. It should be that. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button. So I say hit the like button if you think we're going to sign at least one player. But let's not draw the bar too high. Um, yeah, as if you think the transfer window is going to be mediocre, don't forget to click the like button as well, and don't forget to subscribe if you think Manchester United will get Champions League football. So that would be, yeah, yeah. I think also there's no intensity. I think with this one, if there's no intensity, there's no intensity. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. If like, I think a hair pull could be red if it's like very violent conduct, but I think again that a straight red for essentially accidental hair. No. But guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back live at 1 p.m. with some news. This is something I wanted to focus on the positives today, which can be a struggle for Man United fans over the last couple of years. But we'll be back live later on today to cover any sort of news, breaking news. I imagine there's going to be a few stories regarding players. I think this morning it's all about last night, enjoying that win, enjoying that, and then later on today we can have a look at some of the other news moving into the window. Looking forward to Liverpool as well over the rest of the week. But then, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Unfortunately, the sun seems to have disappeared because I've been enjoying the sun all week, and unfortunately, it seems to have disappeared. But catch you in at 1 p.m. if you're around. Until then, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.